Hello, everybody. Welcome to our presentation on balancing work and life issues. My name is Miles Cates, and so my group and I selected this issue because we all believe that having work-life balance issues is something that will affect everybody at some point. Like most of us, we first kind of got thrust into this predicament as we went away for school, where we sort of had to learn for the first time to balance, working a job to pay our rents or buy food or fill up our gas or pay our, off a car while also attending a semester course load of 4, 5, or 6 classes. Um, but for many of us, that won't necessarily leave us going into our professional career. So many of us, 5, 10, 15 years into our career are still going to have difficulties. It's a challenge for everybody, and it's forever changing. So what my group and I are hopefully going to do for you guys watching is to sort of break down what work-life balance really means. I know like a lot of people are harping or sort of preaching that they want a more stable or more flexible work-life balance. But to some people, that could mean different things. So we want to sort of break down, like bare bones, what it means, why having a good work-life balance matters. Um, there are a lot of performance metrics that suggest that it definitely does matter. And what are some ways that you, as a student, can make it work in your life? So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So let's set a picture for why this is something it's such a big deal. So for me personally, I'm a valet manager, and so I manage 2 locations. So there were times in the semester where I was driving back and forth from Tampa here all the way to Sarasota and back working shifts. I remember many times I've brought my computer and I'm doing my homework at or my classwork at my work shifts, and I'm running for cars and I'm doing assignments in between. Um, there are weeks where it sort of just felt repetitive, and I felt like I was kind of just bogged into this like I kind of created this like trap that I couldn't escape, and so it eventually hit me after I had like a really serious week where I was just, doing a bunch of schoolwork. I had a couple of assignments that I shouldn't have put off that I did. And, it sort of realized that I was kind of causing it all myself. And so work life balance isn't necessarily something that just happens. You sort of, create it on your own, whatever that looked like for you. And yeah, so I know I'm not the only student that's ever, had a similar story. I know that there's many students that have had, same stories of, staying up really late. You can tell that Monday, that 8 a.m. Monday class, you look over and they're either not even there or they're, asleep. So it's a challenge, especially now that, us with devices, we can pretty much bring our work everywhere. And so it never truly escapes you. Um, let's move on to this next slide. So what we're going to go over in this presentation, um, Trevor's going to sort of break down what work-life balance means. Samantha's going to share some examples of what kind of happens when, it sort of like breaks down and you don't have that good balance. So Allison will explain why it's not just good for, you as an employee, but also for an employer as well. And Jade will cover, some challenges, and will share tips for employees and employers on how to create healthy routines. And then here's going to wrap this thing up for us. But we want to just, stick to our goal that we have and think about, your own personal experiences. And maybe you're like me where you've had, some nights where you brought, schoolwork to your actual job, or vice versa. You brought the job to, class. Um, our hope by the end of this is you have like a better picture of what it'll mean to you, and you'll have some good ways where you can actually apply it to yourself. So, without further ado, I want to pass this thing on to Trevor where he'll continue this thing.
What is work life balance? Work life balance is the ability to manage work responsibilities alongside your personal life. It involves balancing time, energy, and attention between career and personal well being. It is not a 50-50 split. Balance looks different for everyone. Work life balance refers to how well an individual manages their job duties and personal life, like time with family, health, hobbies, or rest. It doesn't mean splitting time evenly. The right balance depends on personal priorities and life circumstances. The goal is to avoid feeling burnt out while maintaining performance at work and fulfilling life outside of it. Why work life balance matters? Well, it helps reduce stress and prevents burnout, improves mental and physical health. It leads to higher job satisfaction and productivity. It supports healthy relationships and personal growth. A good work life balance has both personal and professional benefits. People who feel balanced are more motivated and less likely to experience long term stress or burnout. It also helps companies. Employees who feel supported are often more productive and loyal during work hours. Signs of poor versus good work life balance. A poor work life balance would consist of constant fatigue, missing personal events, work anxiety off hours, low job slash personal satisfaction. A good balance would consist of regular rest and downtime, time for family and hobbies, clear work life boundaries, and feeling fulfilled overall. These are just some signs that indicate whether someone's work life balance is off track or in a healthy place. It is not about being perfect, it's about being aware and making adjustments when needed.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I'll be talking about real world examples of work life balance. There are all kinds of ways work and life can clash or work together, depending on the person and their circumstances. So, I'm going to break this down into four types of people: the workaholic, the work preferencer, the financially stressed, and a PTO warrior. The workaholic is someone who's always working either physically at the job or mentally stuck thinking about it. Their job becomes their identity and can be hard for them to turn it off. A famous example is Marissa Mayer, a former CEO of Yahoo. She says she once worked 130 hours a week, and she says she only got through it by sleeping in the napping stations they have on site and being extremely strategic with her time. She even worked from her hospital bed after giving birth to twins back in 2015. A lot of workaholics are driven by the idea of success, climbing the ladder, building a name for themselves, or just trying to stay ahead. But chasing success nonstop can come at a cost to your health, your relationships, or your overall quality of life. Jobs that often encourage workaholic behavior include things like being a lawyer, teacher, manager, or working at fast paced companies like Google or Yahoo. These roles can make it feel like work never ends, especially if the culture rewards overworking or if there's pressure to constantly prove yourself. Next, we have the work preferencer. This is someone who wants to be at work, not necessarily because they're forced to, but because they love it, or because home life isn't ideal. One example is Shane, a operations manager at a Marriott hotel. He often works long shifts, sometimes overnight, not because he has to, but because he wants to help out and be hands-on with the job he works so hard to get. It's his dream role, and he finds fulfillment in being there. For some people, working is more tied to their goals. They see success as something that takes constant effort, so being at work all the time feels like the only way to get there. There are also people who prefer to be at work because it's calmer or safer than their home life. Or maybe they just feel more productive, respected, valued in their workplace. In some cases, work becomes a safe space, especially if it gives structure, purpose, or even a social outlet that they don't get elsewhere. Some people might use it to avoid other stress, like if something is tough is happening at home, then they might stay later at work to take a break from that. Moving on to the financially stressed. Those are people who have to work more, not out of passion, but out of necessity. This is something I can relate to personally, as I'm a full-time student and a part-time worker. I'm working on balancing school, work, and my personal life, and it's not always easy. A lot of college students face this. We need to work to afford school, bills, just basic needs in general. This also affects like hourly workers and single income households. For example, a single mom might feel pressure to constantly work to support her family, or a millennial supporting aging parents might take on a few extra hours. In these situations, even if someone wants balance, it's hard to achieve. Finances end up being the main factor that controls how much time someone can take off, or how many jobs they juggle to try and get by. Finally, we have what I like to call the PTO warriors. It's people who have a healthy work life balance. Take Danielle, the general manager at my retail store. She works her full time schedule, sometimes comes in early and stays late if needed, but she makes sure she uses her paid time off, whether it's for vacation, her kid's soccer game, or just for a mental health day. She doesn't hesitate to take that time. She trained her team well. She's trained her team well and trusts them to handle any situation that arises at the store. And she has faith in them so that she knows she can enjoy her time away without having to stress about the store. These types of workers understand that the jobs are important, but so is rest. They plan vacations, just take sick days, vacation days, and believe in working to live and not living to work. They show how setting boundaries, planning ahead, and having a supportive team can make all the difference. At the end of the day, work-life balance looks different for everyone. Some people are forced into overworking, others choose it, and a lucky few find a way to keep things in check. Finding balance might not be easy, but understanding these patterns is a good first step.
My name is Allison, and today I'll be discussing why work-life balance matters, starting with its impact on businesses. Let's begin with retention. Employees who maintain a healthy balance between work and personal life are significantly more likely to stay with their employers long term. This is because they experience less burnout and higher job satisfaction. Studies emphasize that supportive work and family environments directly improve psychological energy and availability at work. In other words, balance isn't just good for morale, it keeps people engaged and committed. Next, we see a strong connection between work-life balance and productivity. Employees with lower stress levels are more focused and energized during work hours. This translates into better performance, innovation, and fewer sick days. As studies show, without time to recover, chronic stress can actually weaken our immune systems, making employees more vulnerable to illnesses. Lastly, companies that prioritize work-life balance build stronger employer reputations. Younger generations, especially millennials and Gen Z, are actively seeking workplaces that offer flexibility, mental health support, and freedom over their time. As our textbook notes in Essentials of Organizational Behavior, this shift in driving talent decisions and shaping how organizations attract and retain their workforce. Now let's shift into the employee perspective. Work-life balance is essential in preventing burnout. According to medical professionals, burnout isn't just about feeling tired. It's a serious condition involving emotional exhaustion, detachment, and loss of effectiveness. The World Health Organization now recognizes it as a legitimate occupational phenomenon, and when balance is missing, both personal well-being and job performance takes a hit. Balanced employees also experience better mental and physical health. A 2022 study found that a group of Polish professionals with stronger work-life boundaries and had reduced cardiovascular risks and improved mental health. These benefits carry long-term value, not only in individual health but also for a healthier workforce. It is also important to acknowledge the growing issue of social isolation. Roth 2024 shows that this is becoming more common in modern-day society, especially in the US. When employees lack time or energy for personal relationships, it can lead to greater isolation and depression. Poor boundaries between work and life worsen that problem. And finally, when employees have time for sleep, relationships, and personal growth, they report higher overall life satisfaction. They feel happier, more in control, and more motivated in both their personal and professional lives. Generational differences have a major impact on how we view work-life balance. Millennials and Gen Z, now the largest part of the workforce, value flexibility, freedom, and non-traditional schedules. Gen Z prefers blended boundaries with personal and professional life. According to our textbook, these generations don't just want to work, they want meaningful work that allows them space for the rest of their lives. But here's the challenge. When older management styles remain rigid and hierarchical, it can cause a disconnect. These mismatches can increase disengagement and lead to higher turnover rates. If employees feel their well-being is undervalued or that their lifestyle isn't supported, they are more likely to leave. That's why organizations must adapt. Things like remote work, mental health initiatives, and flexible hours aren't extras anymore. They're strategic tools to retain talent. But it's not just what you offer, it's about how you manage. Millennials and Gen Z strive for regular feedback and open communication, often through digital tools, while older generations may prefer structured, face-to-face interaction. Leaders need to adjust their approach based on who they're working with. By investigating and investing work-life balance tools, tailoring support across generations, organizations don't just have to reduce stress. They will build stronger, more committed, and more resilient teams.
As we consider the importance of work-life balance, we can also take a moment to think about some of the challenges to balancing work and life issues. Sue Campbell Clark postulated border theory in the year 2000, which identified work and family home life as different domains that daily border crossers, like us, traverse between every day. Blurred boundaries between work and life typically relate to reduced employee happiness under this theory as well. One element that facilitates this border blurring is interconnectivity, which on its own is a marvel of the modern era. At this point in time, more people are connected than ever before globally. You can contact practically anyone at any time right now, which also means your home life is technically accessible to your professional life 24/7 and vice versa. These blurred boundaries between work life and home life, or domains as Clark calls them, can generate emotional exhaustion, burnout, and employee unhappiness in general. Another related challenge to balancing work life and home life issues is keeping up with mental health. Your own health is as important to you as it is to the people around you that you work with, that depend on you, or that you depend on. In a study conducted on employed populations in Warsaw, people with higher life orientation levels, or in other words, with more focus and active effort put towards their life outside of work, felt less of the stress associated with low work-life balance. Stress is a dangerous symptom to work with, as cortisol, the hormone released when we're stressed, is known to weaken the immune system, which can make us more susceptible to getting and staying sick, which interferes with our work and home life. As mentioned earlier, exhaustion can come out of blurred boundaries and can also come from the sheer dissatisfaction with work, under the colloquial term burnout. Another contributor to this challenge of balancing work and life issues is the act of overworking. Overworking may lead to some of the hazardous symptoms we had just discussed, including emotional exhaustion, burnout, and general unhappiness and impaired immunity. However, the opposite to this, underworking, does not ease the pain of doing too much at work either. Time management is a key component of this challenge, as procrastination does nothing but tip the scale with an excess of overdue and neglected work to confront. People who engage in procrastination or overworking at the wrong times may see their energy levels adjust, though, with things like rescheduling. Balancing work and life issues isn't easy on your own. A support system can be very crucial in dealing with the issues from your home and work life. Social support at work can provide a level of safety and trust that makes it easier to manage work and non-work matters, and family or home social support offers help with coping with the stress of life and the daily workload. For many people, today, it's become harder to create and maintain relationships, the kinds that help us navigate the obstacles in our lives. The growing social isolation that we see in our post-pandemic reality is a sign of this challenge becoming bigger and more widespread across the workforce.
Tips to balancing work and life for employers. For employers, it is important to build a culture of balance. Work and life balance starts at the top. As leaders, they don't just manage their employer's schedule, they are model values. When they foster a culture of open communication, they give their teams permission to be honest about what they need to do in order to thrive, not just survive. Flexible schedules aren't just a luxury, they're a modern day expectation. Whether it's remote work or flexible hours, empowering employees to shape their days cultivates loyalty and drives performance. And let's not forget about boundaries. When we silence the after hours notification and respect personal time, we show that our people just aren't workers. They're human beings with full, rich lives that respect and builds trust. If we truly want to innovate and impact, it is important for employers to reward outcome, not just overtime. After all, it is not about how long someone's working online. It is about what they're bringing to the table for the company. Tips to balance work and life issues for employees. For employees, balance isn't something just handed to them. It's something that they need to craft. And it starts with boundaries. To define their work hours, to make sure that they honor their work hours, protecting their time. It's not only their right, but it's their responsibility. Employees need to plan with a purpose. They don't just cram in their calendar, they really try to curate it. They schedule their work, their intentional breaks, and yes, time for them to have their own fun. Whether it's going on vacation or going out with their family, because you do have to show up for work, but at the end of the day, you have to show up for yourself so that you can later on show up stronger for your team. For employees, they're more than just the job title. They make space for their team so that they can light them up and do a better job in their work and succeed at it. Tips to balance work and life issues for employers and employees. It is important for both employers and employees to have a shared responsibility, meeting in the middle. Balance isn't just a solo act, it's a shared rhythm. When leaders and employees move in sync, I feel like that's where the magic happens. Time off needs to be sacred, not symbolic. Leaders should encourage it, and team must normalize taking it. A rested team is a resilient one. Wellness shouldn't be whispered, it should be woven into the culture. Mental health days, regular check-ins, and movement of pause aren't just extras, they're essentials. It is important for both employers and employees to celebrate small victories, the unplugged weekends, the midday walks, the healthier boundaries, because when they celebrate a balance, they create a space for everyone to thrive in. This is how we build workspaces that work for real people. And in the end, it leads for a team or a company to succeed by having this balance within them.
So this is our conclusion. I'm Kira. I'm just going to start off with a little summary first. So not everybody handles the same work-life balance responsibilities or mental load capacity. Creating a ratio that works for you can help to ease or prevent burnout symptoms. Most of the different types of workers we have introduced, or out of all of them, the PTO warrior is by far the most balanced. So working hard and playing hard allows you to get the best out of both worlds without sacrificing yourself. You always need to have a really nice balance going in there. Benefits on all sides for saying no to overworking. So increased job satisfaction, productivity, company loyalty, and overall health increases with this. Challenges faced when reinforcing work-life boundaries. So some of these challenges are blurred boundaries because of technological developments we have now, mental health issues, overworking, and ineffective support systems. Some statistics we have here is that in the top graph, it ranks job deal breakers. A poor work-life balance was in second place, reaching above 56%. Many of the other factors on this list contribute to work-life balance, like long commute, inflexible work environment, and poor PTO. So you might want to keep that in mind when looking at this. The second infographic that shows barriers to work-life balance is that company culture significantly affects it. So this is also in second place with a 24.2%. The first rank, personal perfectionism, could be a side effect of the company culture and bosses and superiors' expectations. So keep in mind that it's hard to completely separate these portions, and that one very well could be integrated into the other and be more of a cause and effect type situation. What can we do as employees? Set boundaries not only with your boss, but with yourself as well. So, how long you're willing to work out of your designated work hours without further reimbursement, contactability outside of work hours, days off. You can change your availability schedule to reflect your needs and give you a little bit more time off. Talk about more flexible work setups if you're able to do that with the type of job you have. So this includes like hybrid remote jobs where you're able to do some days in person and some days online. And then if need be, you could also change jobs, but that is not necessarily recommended unless you already have another job set up. Don't just quit your job, please. And then as for employers, 89% of companies that change to a flexible setup save thousands in turnover costs and productivity. Work-life balance improves company health and productivity as well. A company with good company culture and social aspects will have an easier time hiring. Employers are able to recruit higher value employees than those with infamous company cultures. Invest your employees with PTO, wellness programs, and support recognition. Support or recognition. Employees say that 41% of their employers um, offer wellness programs, and 31 said that the lack of support and recognition from their superiors was a major factor. And then always remember to have clear communication when in the workplace, because that is definitely necessary to have a healthy work environment and relationship. And then I just want to remind everybody that there is not ever going to be a right time to make these changes. Your circumstances will never completely line up. You just have to go for it. So do the hard things first and go ahead and drive your life into a different direction. Don't wait. Your health and well-being is very important, not only to you, but to your employers as well. Don't forget that. Thank you.